Okay, we are back and we have our overview right up. This is cycle 2 for junior paper. This cycle, we are actually going to work on creating a prompt. And if you take this seriously, when you create your prompt, you will actually be creating your intro paragraph, which will go on your final draft of your paper that we'll be doing in the spring. So a strong prompt is really going to be able to lead into a strong intro paragraph if you actually follow what's going on. So just make sure that you turn in your planning guide by the second cycle. And there have been emails that have been sent out about that for when that is indeed due. So please make sure that you're not forgetting that. But for today's assignment, we're going to go over the overview here, and the homework is indeed right here. Make sure that you do follow the directions there to a T. Now, what we're going to talk about today is creating a research prompt, and there are actually steps here for you all to create a research prompt, but the truth is that you don't have to actually do these steps one by one. The steps are not what you're turning in. But if you actually write these steps out, you will then be able to produce the prompt itself, which is step 5. And step 5 is what we're actually looking for you to turn in. And what your final product will look like is exactly like what's in these boxes below. So if what you have is not like what's in the boxes below here, then you have not done this right. What's in the boxes below does indeed follow the steps that are above. So the steps above step 5 are all about how do you actually begin to plan out your prompt. Step 5 is writing the prompt in full, and then the prompt in full is the only thing that we want turned in for your next cycle, which will be cycle 3. So what you're turning in, once again, will look just like what's in these boxes here. These boxes follow the exact same format as what's listed in the planning process. So you might ask, well, why do we actually have the steps for the creating of the prompt when you can just create the prompt? The reason why is because these steps make creating the prompt much more thorough and much more easy. So what we're doing here is we're actually moving you in this prompt through the first 3 steps of what's called the classical argument model. And the way that works is that thousands of years ago, when the classical argument model was created, essentially, right, there were 6 steps. And the first 3 steps work out perfectly for an intro paragraph. And the first step is called the web. And the web is meant to engage a reader. So you'll notice that step 1 for you is to explain why you found the topic engaging. And then it says explain why somebody else would find the topic engaging. And then if somebody wouldn't find the topic engaging, what could you potentially do or say to actually engage that person? Because that's where we need to actually start with our prompt, because that's what you need to do when you start an intro paragraph anyway. Get some information out there that is engaging. Step 2 is this. Think about why you personally find this topic to be pertinently discussed at this present moment. Well, in the classical argument structure, it goes from what's called the web, which is the way to engage the audience, to what's called the background, which talks about the urgency of why whatever the topic is needs to be discussed now. Please note here that when you think about this, you're basically explaining why it's important to deal with this issue now, but you should not be using first and second person pronouns when doing so. Okay, we're saying in a collective sense. So we've got this idea of the background. What is some background information that allows us to know why it needs to be spoken about right now? Step 3 asks you to think about the perspectives that other people would have toward your topic. And you just want to summarize these in 1 to 2 sentences apiece. Okay, you might want to get some opposing views in there. You might want to try to get a third view in there. But you are required, please make sure that you notice this right here, that you are indeed required to have at least 2 perspectives, 2 different views about your topic. They might be the same position. That means they could both agree, but at least 2 different views about your topic. And the reason why is because this is going to showcase to you that there is some complexity to your topic. And you're going to summarize the few perspectives of what other people have said about the topic that you're discussing. Okay? And then the last part, and this is the most important, this is where you actually create your prompt. So everything up until now is really working on creating your, essentially what will be your intro paragraph, but it's basically the context for your prompt. And that is, you're going to engage your audience, you're going to provide some background as to why it needs to be spoken about now, and you're going to provide some different perspectives of people that are talking about it. And eventually what we're trying to do is we're trying to get you to join this conversation that you've created in steps 1 through 3. Well, now what you're going to do to create an actual prompt for you to respond to is this. You're going to create a question that you want answered about the topic of your choice. And initially, this could possibly be a yes or no question or an either or question, but that's not remarkably complex. So you can't just ask a yes or no question or an either or question. You have to create a prompt that will allow you to adjust your language so that you can make it complex. And complex means that it's not all one way or all the other. There's some idiosyncrasies that are involved, and that's what we're trying to look at as we go throughout this paper. How do we write an argumentative paper but understand the limits of our argument? That's what we're trying to do. So when you create this prompt, I want to point out that your final prompt, okay, the final command that you are giving yourself when you write must not allow for it to be answered with the words yes or no or in an either or format. You cannot do that. So let's just look at this example here to see how this works. Let's pretend that I wanted to talk about space exploration in my paper. That's what I was going to do. And I created this initial question that says, does space exploration affect humanity? Well, the answer is yes. So the problem is that can't be the question that's essentially going to drive my paper, or the question that my paper is answering, because it's a yes or no question, and the directions say you cannot have a yes or no prompt. So I need to figure out, how do I make that a little bit more complex so that it's not a yes or no question? And notice here, I've revised my question and I ask, in what ways does space exploration affect humanity? If someone were to ask me that, in what ways does space exploration affect humanity? And I were to answer no. That doesn't make any sense. As the same it would happen if I answered yes. It doesn't work. And that's how we know that this question is a decent question. The problem is that a question is not a prompt. So we are going to turn this question into an argumentative command. And I have a template for you to do so. Okay? So what you're going to write is this. Okay? You are going to write, after considering the above and completing other research, write a paper in which you, and now here you actually get to choose one. Okay? You get to choose any of these here. You could say, write a paper in which you examine the factors. If I wanted to, I could say, examine the factors about how space exploration influences humanity. It's a little bit wordy. I don't know why you would word it that way, but you could, right? Argue a clear position about how space exploration influences humanity. Evaluate the need for space exploration. Examine the implications of space exploration on humanity. Develop a position about space exploration and how it affects humanity. I can actually use each one of these, right? Now, you don't have to. See where it says choose one? You're going to choose one command to create your prompt. So we're taking this question here that's not answerable in yes or no, and what we're doing is we're turning it into a statement that we're tagging on the end of the rest of this template here. Okay? If you have questions about that, please make sure to see your junior or senior paper instructor. So you'll notice that what I did was I took this question, in what ways does space exploration affect humanity, and I turned it into this command. After considering the above and completing other research, write a paper in which you develop a position about, and you'll notice that I have that language right here, develop a position about. So we have in which you develop a position about how engaging in space exploration affects humanity. That is the argumentative command for my prompt. So what this means now is this. If I wanted to, I could actually turn this into a question, and this question will be very similar to that first revised question that I made. And that is, I could ask this question: what is the effect that space exploration has on humanity? This is what I'm going to answer in my paper. Now, you're going to notice, right, that in step 5, it says take all of the information from the planning steps, that's 1 through 4, and begin constructing a prompt. And it tells you everything that your prompt needs to have. Make sure that your prompt contains something engaging, right? That's where we begin. You need to mention the urgency of your topic. You need to mention multiple views towards your topic. And you need to also put in the writing assignment. So now, and that writing assignment also cannot be answered in a yes or no or either or statement. Okay? Utilize the examples below. Observe the example prompts below as models. I'm going to actually change this language here to say observe because it's important. Observe the example prompts below as models. You have to check these out. Make sure that your prompt is as detailed as what's listed down here. And if you actually fill in this information well, this information right up here, you're going to be in good shape because this will work pretty well for your intro paragraph. So these are a couple of different examples, okay? And this up part, I still want you to also break it down in this way. Give us the introductory information and then give us the writing command that you are going to fulfill. You will notice none of these commands have questions. If you are writing a question when you produce your final prompt, if there's a question mark down here, or if you're asking a question, you're not doing this right. It must be a statement. Write a paper in which you do these things. Okay? So, if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to ask them when you are attending your assigned junior and senior paper. Students have been skipping such, so I want to make sure that you remember to put your assigned dates in your phone or on some sort of calendar so that you indeed remember. These steps are for planning. Step 5 is actually the final product. Your final product should look like what's in the boxes. If you have any questions, come see your teacher. And I want you all to have a beautiful rest of your day.